Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Loud please. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Shri Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Khoda Nitai Jaya Mayapura Sasi Jaya Khoda Nitai Jaya Mayapura Sasi Jaya. Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Shri Prabhupada Bachata Pavana ki jai, Gaura Premanande. Prabhupada also continued speaking, as he had in recent months, about being unafraid of death and being fixed in transcendental knowledge. When receiving a presentation of some of his books recently printed in Portuguese by Hridayananda Goswami, Prabhupada encouraged him and said, "This is life. The material world is just bones. The bones are not our real life. Our real concern is living force. The bones may remain or go. It doesn't matter. The real life is sustaining the bones." There is even a history that there was a rishi who had only bones, so there is a science by which you can sustain life in only bones. Hiranyakashipu did it. You also do it, Srila Prabhupada, Tamal Krishna said. So take care of the bones as long as possible, said Prabhupada. But the real life is here. Always remember that. The material world means we are simply all protecting bones and flesh together. But they have not knowledge of what they are. Srila ki. We're studying Hiranyakashipu's teachings, and Srila mentioned also Hiranyakashipu. And also, I believe in this story, Prabhupada was very happy about when devotees printed this book in Portuguese. Yes. And as we know, we have a very nice devotee from Brazil. And in Brazil, people speak in Portuguese. So every story is alive. We just need to see the reason how. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet. We are reading today from the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 2, text 27. Sorry? What should I read before? So we start.
The English should we read translation?
Oh, just translation. Oh, okay, I see. Without purport. Okay. Shatma viparyaso. Hyalinge linga bhavana. Esha priya priyar yogo. Viyoga karma samsriti. Sambhavascha vinashascha. Shokascha vividhah smritah. Avivekascha chintacha. Vivekastir evacha. Esha atma viparyasho. Hyalinga bhavana. Esha priya priyar yogo. Viyoga karma samsriti. Sambhavascha vinashascha. Shokascha vividhak smritah. Avivekascha chintacha. Vivekasmritirevacha. Eshach, this Atma Viparyasach, bewilderment of the living being. He indeed alinge, okay, in that which doesn't possess a material body. Linga bhavana, accepting the material body to be the self. Eshach, this priya, with those who are very dear. Apriya, and with those who are not dear, enemies. Okay. Enemies, those not in the family, etc. Yoga, connection. Viyoga, separation. Karma, the fruits of action. Samsriti, the material condition of life. Sambhava, accepting birth. Cha, and Vinashaha, accepting death. Cha, and Shoka, lamentation. Cha, and Vividha, varieties. Smritaha, mentioned in scripture. Aviveka, lack of discrimination. Cha, and Chinta, anxiety. Cha, also. Viveka, of proper discrimination. Asmriti, forgetfulness. Eva, indeed. Cha, also. Translation. In this bewildered state, the living entity, accepting the body and mind to be the self, considers some people to be his kinsmen and other to be outsiders. Because of this misconception, he suffers. Indeed, the accumulation of such concocted material ideas is the cause of suffering and so-called happiness in the material world. No conditioned soul, thus situated, must take birth in different species and work in various types of consciousness, thus creating new bodies. This continued material life is called samsara. Birth, death, lamentation, foolishness, and anxiety are due to such material considerations. Thus, we sometimes come to a proper understanding and sometimes fall again to a wrong conception of life. Atrapi uddaharantiman atrapyuddhaharantinam itihasam puranatam yamasya pretta bandhunam samvadam tam nibodhata. In this regard, an example is given from an old history. This involves a discourse between Yamaraja and the friends of a dead person. Please hear it attentively. Purport by His Divine Grace. The word Itihasam Puratanam means an old history. The Puranas are not chronologically recorded, but the incident mentioned in the Puranas are actually histories of beyond ages. Srimad Bhagavatam is the Mahapurana, the essence of all the Puranas. The Mayavadi scholars do not accept the Puranas, but Srila Madhvacharya and all other authorities accept them as the authoritative histories of the world. Omagina Timurandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sva Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Hare Krishna. It's my greatest pleasure to see all of you today. I miss this Lesmehego devotees family. I think most of us has very nice trips in different parts of the world. And finally, we can see each other again. In today's verse, in Prabhupada Srila tells us about Puranas. You know, we should accept Puranas. The structure of Vedic literature, we know that there was one Veda, yes. After that, after some time, people need, like, for more understanding of Veda, Srila separated this one Veda into 4 parts, like Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva Veda. And but still people were struggling to understand. So he wrote like Upanishads and Puranas and Itihasas. So Upanishada, there's hundreds of Upanishads. We know at least one of them, Shisha Upanishad. It's like main of Upanishads for the Vaishnavas, which is make very clear this position, who is God and his position, you know. Also a lot of Puranas, but main of them like 18 Puranas. 6 of them for the people who are in mood of ignorance, 6 of them for the people who are in mood of passion, and 6 of them for the people who are in mood of goodness. Because actually Bhagavatam was written by Vasudeva as a purport for Vedanta Sutra. So Vedanta Sutra is quite difficult to understand, you know. I need to see, because just a moment. Chandra Prabhu helps me to prepare for this class. And is anybody here who read Vedanta Sutra? So, okay, what does it mean, sutra? Sutra, yes, means something very, you know, like very small, very short, how to say it? Aphorism, very short aphorism, you know. And you need to understand the meaning of this aphorism by deeply thinking upon it. Yeah. And Srila Prabhu always gave wonderful examples just for our understanding. Thank you so much. Yes, this Vedanta Sutra, it starts from Adhata Brahma Jigyasa. Adhata Brahma Jigyasa, this is one aphorism. So, who can understand something from Adhata Brahma Jigyasa? What does it mean? It is time to answer about absolute truth. It's translation, yes. Like Adhato Brahma Jigyasa. Brahma means absolute truth. Jigyasa means this, pariprashna. I mean, asking question. Jigyasa. Adhato. So this is time to ask question about absolute truth, or the absolute truth. So this is first aphorism. And people, in previous ages, they just by reading this, they can understand what does it mean. What can we understand from this Adhata Brahma Jigyasa? Any ideas? So this is time to answer the question about absolute truth. And the second verse of Vedanta Sutra is Janmadi Yasyataha. And it's like it's time to answer the question about absolute truth. So what is this absolute truth? Who is this absolute truth? And in second verse is describing this absolute truth. Adhato Brahma Jigyasa. Absolute truth is Janmadhyasyataha. Janmadhyasyataha, sorry. Janmadhyasyataha. This absolute truth is one from whom everything else is emanated. Is correct? Yes. So this is the absolute truth. This is one person, or the one from whom everything else emanated. And the third verse, how to say it? Shastra Yonitvat. Shastra Yonitvat. This is the third aphorism of Vedanta Sutra. So where you can find this absolute truth? The only way to find this absolute truth, is from Shastra. So, and okay, we will not continue, describing this Vedanta Sutra, but it's very important for us to understand that Bhagavatam is like nature purport by the author of Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra is like the essence of all Vedas, the essence of all the Vedas, yes. And after writing this Vedanta Sutra, Srila Vyasadeva, he wrote Bhagavatam. He wrote Bhagavatam because this is like natural purport for this Vedanta Sutra. And actually, Bhagavatam is started from the same verse as the second sutra of Vedanta Sutra, second aphorism, Janmadi Yasyataha. Maybe you remember this first verse of Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadi Yasya Yato Nvayat Itaratas Charthesha Pigyat Svayat Tene Brahma Hridaya Dikavaye Muhyanti Yat Suraya Tejavari Mridam Yathatat Vinimaya Yatratri Sargam Risha Dhamna Svena Sadanirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. So it is started. The whole Bhagavatam Purana is started from the same second aphorism of Vedanta Sutra. Janmadya Yasya Yatanvayat. And so this is like, this Bhagavatam is the main part of the Vedas. I don't know which metaphor can show it. Usually, this like, there is a lot of milk, and how to say it, on the top of the milk, cream, on the top of the milk. Yes. So there's all this Vedas, all this Puranas, Itihasas, Upanishads, Rig, Sama, Yajur, Athara Veda. It's like, a huge pot of milk, and on the top, this is cream. So Bhagavatam is like a cream, and this is natural purport for this Vedanta Sutra, given by the author of the Vedanta Sutra. Shri Kodaitai Me Purushashi Bhagavan Ki. And in this verse, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada this is why Srila Prabhupada is speaking here about this, how important to understand what is this Purana, what is Puranas, because Mayavadi, they don't accept Puranas. They only describe in this Vedanta Sutra. And actually, it was a period in our Vaishnava tradition when, like, it was a big discussion that our philosophy is not authoritative, because we have no this purport for Vedanta Sutra. And it's a long story, actually. And because, yes, and after this, Baldev Vidyabhushana, I believe he saved our sampradaya from this judge court. Yes, that is the reason. But Mayavadi, they don't accept it as a purport, because as mentioned here in purport, they don't accept Puranas at all. So that was the reason why Baldev Vidyabhushana should wrote this purport, and this purport named like Govinda Bhashya. Govinda Bhashya. Why? Because Govindaji himself, he just he told what to write for Baldev Vidyabhushana. And that's why Srila Prabhupada actually, I believe he started Bhagavad Gita as it is. He mentioned Baldev Vidyabhushana in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Yes. So this is like Puranas, and we accept this as a natural purport for Vedanta Sutra. And I was thinking what to speak today because it's quite short purport. So we can. I was thinking maybe I would like to glorify Bhagavatam a little, if you don't mind. Okay. Maybe you remember who of Sikh Swami was like top fan of Srimad Bhagavatam. Who was every people who he met, he started to describe Bhagavatam. He can start to describe Bhagavatam. Who of Sikh Sanatana Goswami. So Sanatana Goswami, he was like, he's known as Bhagavatam follower. Yes, and everywhere he just speak about Bhagavatam. He read Bhagavatam, he preach Bhagavatam. So Sanatana Goswami in the Krishna Lila Stava praises the Srimad Bhagavatam. This praise is like one of his book, Krishna Lila Stava, where he praises Bhagavatam. This praise is full of reverence and shows us what our study of Srimad Bhagavatam should be. Our study is not meant simply to learn certain numbers of words and assimilate what philosophical conclusions simply by memorizing them. It is means for us to have true reverence, not fear of committing offense, and feeling in our hearts for the Srimad Bhagavatam, for its author, Srila Vedavyasa, and for the heroes of the Bhagavatam. These heroes are real persons, and we should be aware of them. Because ultimately, the point is to attain rasa. Srimad Bhagavatam is rasa shastra, and we have to nurture in our hearts this attitude towards Srimad Bhagavatam. Then the study of Srimad Bhagavatam will bear true fruit. So Krishna Lila Stava, first 5 verses. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you who are enriched with the jewels of spiritual philosophical conclusions. O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O life breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of the Kali Yuga. You are actually Krishna who has returned among us. Do you like this verse? It's so sweet. No, this is first two verses from Krishna Lila Stars. Okay, third verse. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. By reading you, one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are an incarnation of Krishna. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my compassion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O giver of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplifter of the very fallen, please do not ever leave me. Please become manifested upon my heart and my throat, a compliment by pure love of Krishna. And I would like to read a few more verses about which is glorified Bhagavatam. This one is third verse, actually the third verse of Bhagavatam. You know, this Nigamakalpataror galitam phalam shukamukha dravyamrita samyutam pibato Bhagavatam rasamalayam murhurahora sikha bhuvi bhavukaha. O expert and thoughtful man, release Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarine juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. 1 to 18. By regular attendances in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and love and service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Remember this verse on Sanskrit? Srimvatam Sakata Krishna. Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyanto. Because these verses are from the second chapter of Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter. They describe in this path of bhakti, you know, Adausha data tatsadu sangata tabhaja nivriti syat tata ruchis tatanish ruchisatha. You know, so this is like describing all the steps of our purification and our developing love for God, pure bhakti. So this particular verse is describing this anartha nivriti. And so like level of nishtha, you know. And yes, because after this level, next verses, which is Evam prasana manaso bhagavat bhakti yogatah bhagavat tattva vigina mukta sangasya jayate vidyate hridaya granthish hridaya sarva samshayah. So I mean, it's a lot of verses after, not a lot, but few verses after, which is describing next levels of bhakti. Yes, but this particular is describing this level of nishtha, anartha nivriti and nishtha. So this is like, but at the same time, this process of hearing, of listening to hearing Bhagavatam and serving pure devotee, they're like this at the same time, and our goal and the way to achieve this goal. So they describe and Bhajana Kriya, and Anarthanivriti, and Nishka. So at least these three. And again, you know, this Bhagavatam, we can understand Bhagavatam from at least on two levels. I mean, for sadhana bhakti and for Shuddha bhakti. So in our position, in my position, not in your position, obviously, no, I'm sure your level is much higher. But in my position as sadhaka, this is like Bhagavatam helps me to purify my heart. And this regular, everyday, Prabhupada, you know, in Sanskrit, this like regular, but Prabhupada translated as everyday visiting Srimad Bhagavatam, you know, classes. It's a very nice point, yes. So by regular visiting the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can achieve this goal, yes. And so for sadhaka, this like way for purification, and for pure devotees, like we already mentioned, this third verse of Bhagavatam, Nigama Kalpatara, Galitam Phalam Shukamukha Dravya Amrita Samyutam. Pibato Bhagavatam Rasamalam. Pibato means like, you know, enjoy this nectar, drink and enjoy this nectar of Bhagavatam. So on one level, pure devotees, they already enjoy this rasa, you know, in each and every verse of Bhagavatam, they enjoy this pure rasa relationship with Krishna and his devotees. They can find, you know, this Shishirada Krishna relationship in every verse of Bhagavatam. But on our level, you know, we understand it's like in different way, because we can't just jump upon. As we know, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he commented just this first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam for 2 weeks, and he never replied. It has at least like 500. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he commented this verse in 5 different comments, you know, completely different, for completely levels of understanding. Yes, so I don't know, is it answer a question? Or yes. So actually, maybe one more point, because even on the top, on the highest level of bhakti, we still have something in our heart. The completely purification is only on this, you know, prema, only when we achieve this prema bhakti. Because even in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, we already read it. There is a story of Bharata Maharaj, who became a deer. And we know that before this, he was already on the level of bhava. He was already on the level of bhava. And even from the level of bhava, he was like full. So even after, you know, this Anarthanivriti and Nishka, there is still something left in our heart, still, which is needed to be purified. Yes, so that is why in this particular verse you asked, yes, it described like, not completely, but almost. Yes? Thank you for your question. I don't know. Is there any more questions, comments? We can read a little more.
What gives you
Personal to me? I can answer this question in a very simple way. You know, I know for sure that without reading Bhagavatam, like there is nothing in my spiritual life. Just nothing. I mean, my japa is like empty. You know, when I didn't read Bhagavatam, you know, just you're chanting Hare Krishna, but you're thinking of some rubbish things at the same time. You can't concentrate your mind. Bhagavatam is alive. As today we started our read the story from Prabhupada Lila. And we can find, you know, just we read every day for a little. And just today we read, yes, this, and where Srila Prabhupada mentioned about Shiman Hiranyakashipu, and also mentioned about this Portuguese language, So it's like you can find some signs if you read it daily, especially if you read daily. So the main secret of reading Bhagavatam, read it every day. If you read every day, at least in, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes, at least 1 hour, it after some time, not immediately, immediately also, but usually, no, just you need to be very serious by reading every day, like every day, daily sadhana, whenever happen. And it's very easy, when you go somewhere, I mean, when you went, for example, drive on the bus, you can read, or when you stay in the, how to say it, line, queue, stay in a queue, you can read it, So you can find a lot of time to read Bhagavatam. It's not a problem at all. The very first time I read Bhagavatam was in subway. I was working in the place which was like 1.5 hours from my home, and it's like every day I have to go, just 1.5 hours one way, 1.5 hours coming back, and it's like bus, underground, and walk, So it was quite long distance, and that was actually like hellish planets. Really, like every day for I believe 2 or 3 years. Every day without weekend. I was working like from Monday till Saturday. And on Sunday, I also went to the temple, which was even more far away, So, but the first time I read Bhagavatam was, on this way, just here and back. And, and for me, that was like, in one time, it was like hellish, hellish planets, all this. You just I don't think you can imagine what does it mean, this public transport in Ukraine, because Karunachandra Prabhu, obviously he can understand this, but if some of you were in India train, have anyone here traveled in Indian train? You have this experience, yes? So it's approximately the same. I mean, in this morning time when everybody goes to the work, and in the evening time when everybody's coming back. It's, you just you try to put yourself into this metro subway, into this subway train, and it's just about you need to run and push all the people just to somehow or other to put yourself there, yes. And for me that was something like this, I was standing and people was looking, when these pictures, yes, and especially I remember when I read the fifth canto of Bhagavatam, and maybe you remember there this goddess Kali, who has a lot of hands, and she's destroying all these rascals who try to kill Jad Bharata, yes, and people was like, actually people don't mind what you're doing, they just have their own problems. But if you're standing like this, and some people standing very close, they just they have this darshan. Yeah, so but so that was like really hard time of my life, really difficult, because yes, it's a long story, but I will try to make it short. But at the same time, that was the best time of my life, because I read Bhagavatam every day, and you can find shelter in Bhagavatam. There's real shelter, you just look, every situation which is going on in your life, you can start, after reading Bhagavatam daily, you can find this, like, answer for your question. Just like you can find this very strong connection with your life and what is right in Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's purport and Bhagavatam story, and you read all this, and you can see how it's, just change your life. It's a wonderful experience, yes. So, and as Krishna Kirtan, Krishna Katha, they always supposed to be together, like Radha Krishna is supposed to be together. So Krishna Kirtan, Krishna Katha. And without this, without reading Bhagavatam, you just can't be really, concentrate your consciousness upon Krishna holy name, in at least in Japa. Of course, we have special mercy in Kirtan, because sometimes you can concentrate. Yeah, when devotees cry loudly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And you know, you can just cry much louder than your mind, because our mind is always speaking, you know, always. He never stopped. He always speaking. And sometimes, you know, we chant our kirtan and you stand just Namo Om Vishnu Padaya, and you know, just your mind thinking about something else, you know. But after some time, when the kirtan become like very loud, very huge kirtan, you finally started crying from your heart, and your mind is stopped. Okay, you're crying louder than holy name is louder than your mind. It's a very nice way to pacify your mind. Sometimes it helps. Not every time, of course, but sometimes it helps, yes. So, yes, Bhagavatam is alive. And for me, Bhagavatam, I don't know, Krishna Svadhama Pagate Dharma Gyana Divisaha Kalau Nashti Drishama Shapurnarha Dunojitaha. So, Krishna Svadhama Pagate Dharma Gyana Divisaha. So, when this Dharma and Gyana in Kali Yuga, they go away, you know, when Krishna left, Dharma and Jnana also go with him, you know, and only Kali Yuga stay here. But at the same time, when Krishna go, like son of Bhagavatam is rise. So this is a very nice example. So this is Krishna himself. This is Krishna himself, and this is association with Srila Prabhupada himself, because Srila Prabhupada's purport, he wrote this purport for each of us, you know, and you can see this personal instruction Srila Prabhupada given you by reading Bhagavatam.
It's called Samadhi Vash. It's meaning that and this is not even not Sanskrit but Samadhi language. So and I thought that when you said that we have questions, we have answers from Srimad, not only because of words. So I open the book, I have some questions, and in the words there is answer. But because in Samadhi language, it's Krishna himself, it's Shabda Brahman, spirit in form of sound. So why I have answers in my question, because I have this spiritual awakening in my heart. So from my heart I have my answers, even if it's written something else, but I have answers in my question. Why? Because it's connected with soul and super soul in my heart. It's something like it's puts me in samadhi. Of course, it depends from my serious, if how much I'm serious in reading. But if I read seriously, I can go with samadhi, because Krishna is samadhi language.
This is a very important point, and also this is why we should always pray before we start to read Bhagavatam. You know, so it's not about like how to say academical learning of Bhagavatam. It's about, I don't know how to translate Откровение, like you know, when this knowledge comes from the inside, you know, from like you read something, but revelation. Is it correct word? Revelation? Yeah. So this way of revelation to understand Bhagavatam. So that's why every time before we start read Bhagavatam, even if you just read it in the train, you know, just we can pray a little. This Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That's why we're chanting this every time. All these Mangalacharna prayers. I can see all of devotees would like to continue the association with Krishna by Krishna Prasadam. Thank you very much for your attention. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Srila Prabhupada Vachita Pavana ki Jai Gaura Premanande. Na tako, če Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.